Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. It's me Gamerturk and Art Online Alternative Gale Online episode 10 starts with SHINC saving LLENN and Fukaziroh from the MMTM assault inside the dome. A quick start to my video on an episode with a quick start about LLENN that we won't be seeing much of in this episode, so I thought this was just appropriate, you know? We got a bunch of cameos in this episode, including a true Kirito cameo, but the references are not just limited to the SAO franchise. It suffices to say that Disney won't be too happy after seeing this episode. Again, we got a couple of things that the anime glossed over without explanation, and a bunch of stuff that was changed from the source material anyways. It wasn't really surprising that this was the case, since the anime adapted from the end of Volume 3 Chapter 11 all the way to mid-17. That's about 6 chapters to cover in 20 minutes, and for reference, each episode usually covers around 3 to 4 chapters. I also got tons of questions from you guys to answer, so let's get to it. MMTM retreats, LLENN grabs the magazines Clarence left behind in the last episode, and while Boss asks for that one-on-one duel Karen promised her, Fuka just blurts every single detail about their situation in one go. I'm glad this part was wrapped up quickly since, episode 10, The Devil's Comeback, is titled that way for a reason. The devil, of course, does not refer to the pink devil right here, but rather the embodiment of the devil we have seen in the previous episode, Pitohui. After the opening, we cut to Shirley running away, whose entire team was wiped out by Pitohui, while they supposedly had a ceasefire with her. We see all of this in a flashback scene, a neat little detail as KKHC members mention their ability to shoot without bullet lines, being a hunter's club and such, as I talked about in the previous video. Anyways, KKHC approached without any weapons, hence why Pitohui did not massacre them while they were approaching in the first place, the same way she just didn't want to shoot the 2 guys in the previous episode and just, kept torturing them until they'd pull their guns, but M intervened. That's an entirely different story. But in this case, not pulling out their weapons was KKHC's doom in the first place. There is this question Pito asks in this scene that is not present in the light novels. Now, this is just my personal assumption, but to me it seems like the answer to this question is the point that triggers Pitohui to kill them. They respond with, "We will resign and you will automatically win if we are the last 2 teams," which is so not Pitohui's way of doing things. So she makes a gentleman's agreement. It's honestly a minor play on words to mislead the enemy, not even comparing to grander and much more evil schemes like the shitstorm that was No Man's Sky marketing campaign. She goes on to kill everyone, and KKHC couldn't even answer the gunfire because they approached with no weapons equipped. It would take them at least a dozen seconds to return fire, 10 seconds that they never had in this instance. In fact, Shirley's escape played out entirely different in the light novels, as she tried saving one last member of the team by piggybacking him on her back and running away, but the guy getting shot and unintentionally becoming a shield for her as she ran away, which was again omitted from the anime. Another key detail that was omitted in the anime is the fact that, seeing this instance, Pitohui actually knew the runaway girl would be back for revenge, but she would still get caught off guard when that time comes because Shirley did her best to mislead Pito when running away. Also, an entire backstory segment for Shirley was skipped as well, possibly to make sure everything that's left can be adapted within the next 2 episodes as we approach the season finale. As we cut back to Team LF and SHINC, we get a glimpse of the map again. Only 6 teams remain. MMTM is outside of the dome to the west. SHINC and LF are inside the dome. Zemal, the machine gun idiots, died on the northern hills by that red dot you see on the edge. That team is Team TS. They figured out that they were ladders attached to the wall and actually decided to climb up, and surprisingly found some bikes up there to travel faster. And of course we see PM4 on the east side, as well as another red dot. That is obviously KKHC, with the only remaining member Shirley, who is now the leader that shows up on the scan. And this brings us to the assault towards PM4 with SHINC teaming up with LF. Operation Sweets is an obvious reference to episode 6 when they visited Karen and loudest sweets she had, of course. The rifles and the tactics were quite well explained in the anime, so I'm gonna gloss over the details here. It's that SHINC is constantly shifting directions at an unpredictable rate, so shooting from a kilometer away becomes a serious issue where you have to factor in the distance, the bullet travel time, target trajectory and speed, wind, bullet curve due to gravity, etc. Tons of variables there, so it's a quite hard shot. That's why SHINC doesn't even get too close during this section. They know they would get wiped out otherwise. But luckily, they don't really need to because they have their own material rifle to destroy M's shield. They also make assumptions regarding the situation, M probably having a longer ranged weapon and stuff than usual, and reacting accordingly, doing their best to confuse them as they get closer. Also, a neat tactic was used by PM4 to, use a bullet line as a bait to make Anna dodge initially and take her out with a no bullet line shot right after. And of course, just to clear the confusion if you have any, Boss is the one who shoots Sophie in a controlled manner, so she would keep her posture to act as an immortal object. Much more effective, than an in-game shield that M has, at least for a full 10 minutes. Now, one question I had here from you guys is regarding how the anti-material sniper rifle managed to destroy the shield out of spaceship material that was supposed to withstand almost anything, and if the gun is a real-life gun or a fictional gun. Let's start with the simple question. Yes, the gun is a real-life weapon. It's a PTRD-41, a real-life anti-tank rifle, an old Russian sniper in fact. It was only effective towards early, not heavily armored tanks of the time, and in itself is not powerful enough to destroy the shield. However, while the shield itself is quite the heavy armor, in most objects there are structurally weak points. Toma here is shooting the joints of the shield in this instance, hence why you can see full chunks of the shield just flying off rather than pieces of it. And of course, in the flashback scene we get a name drop for Sinon, who gave SHINC information on how to get the rifle. We also get a scene of sniper bullets flying side by side, reminiscent of Death Gun vs Sinon, or rather the previous battle between these two people, where Toma and M had a duel at the end of Squad Gen 1, which ended on different terms. Now, after the duel you can see M's gun being highly damaged, but keep in mind it is not yet destroyed, highlighting that it may still be fixed. If a gun takes enough damage, it is destroyed. If a gun doesn't take enough damage, it can be rendered useless for the time being until it is repaired. With 30 seconds left until the next scan, LLENN needs to make her move before Pito finds out about the ambush, but there was another person who was banking on that final 30 seconds of unknown. Fuka uses the last 6 pink smoke grenades she has for the final push, but things don't go according to plan as LLENN spots Shirley upon the mountain. And being diverted by Shirley's actions that were omitted from the anime, Pitohui only realizes the threat after the gunshot. Now, most of you have asked me, quite naturally, as to why Pito didn't die faster after the headshot. Well, in the novels, M instantly uses a medkit on her in hopes of saving her. The anime, being a visual medium, a completely separate thing than a written medium, stretches that time a little for a more dramatic effect. Even when you get shot, you can see the health bar depleting before being registered as dead. You can rewind the episode a little and watch Anna getting sniped by M. Despite her getting blasted into two with an anti-material rifle, you can see her health bar deplete, instead of vanishing instantly. This is the same situation here, just, with a more prepared M, and the medkit he uses is also counteracting the damage of the bullet, prolonging the time even further. And of course, LLENN just instantly destroying Shirley is just as fun as always. Who doesn't like unloading an entire magazine of a P90? And Pito here just goes absolutely mental with the thrill of the situation, eventually passing out. Now, the thing here is, as the nameless merc number 3 puts it, normally such a situation would be considered an anomaly by an hemisphere unit and Pito would be automatically ejected from the game by the system. But an old school nerd gear does not have such a safety function, so it's highly suggested that she is using one in this instance. Nothing is officially confirmed since the light novels do not confirm this either, but it is highly implied, and honestly, there is no other way for this to be possible other than a simple nerve gear or a heavily modified M-sphere. Now, most of you are sending me questions asking about how Pito got a hold of a nerve gear in the first place. You see, you missed a significant piece of information that I highlighted back in the episode 9 video. Pitohui was an SAO beta tester. She does in fact have a nerve gear, so the implied situation is very plausible. And knowing some of you thinking about another implication since nerve gear was mentioned, you may be asking how LLENN killing Pito would save her since, she is wearing a nerve gear. You see, the thing is, nerve gear is not the killer piece of tech. Nerve gear has the capability to fry your brain, however, it was Sword Art Online that sent the signal to the nerve gear to do that. Remember that Sword Art Online had a beta using nerve gear where people inevitably died in the game with no consequences in real life. Remember that in Fairy Dance, Kirito dived into Alfheim Online with a nerve gear as well and died in the game without dying in real life. Pito is doing exactly this, mainly to have a more undiluted experience, let's say. A little change here from the light novels again, as M is carrying Pito into the log cabin. In the novels, he actually uses 2 pieces of his shield to cover himself and Pito, which wasn't animated in this 5 frames of a shot in the anime either. Which leads us to LLENN deciding to make a final push, but hey, this was never her episode in the first place, as more uninvited guests appear in the name of MMTM, leading us to the final climax and a bunch of references. Mercs decide to make a last stand to buy time for Pito to wake up. I'm honestly surprised that the Mercs here were not just filler material. Yeah, they were kinda there and not more, but all in all, I expected them to be outright meat shields that Pito abused all the way. Well, they were given, yes, no characters. It was nice to see they had some sort of humanity to them, and at this instance one of the mercs referred to Pitohui as the Sleeping Beauty. Well, this is an obvious reference to the Sleeping Beauty of course, but also a nod to the part where M goes in for the kiss, resulting in Pitohui waking up, effectively resulting in the same Sleeping Beauty story, waking up with the kiss of the prince and stuff. Meanwhile, he also tries to use a plasma grenade to go out together with Pito, but is stopped by her waking up in this instance. We're not shown what happened afterwards, but naturally, some of you wondered what happened. Well, Pito beat the shit out of M for trying to go out in such a manner. That's exactly what happened. As MMTM arrives at the doorway, well... another reference. Now we get a Star Wars Rogue One scene reenacted in anime form as they get destroyed one by one by a red Photon Sword. One of you asked where Pito got the Photon Sword from. Well, you gotta know her by now. She had tons of weapons she brought along for the ride. Her Muramasa F9 was no exception. Yes, it is not a Kagemitsu G4 that Kirito used back in Phantom Bullet. There are more than one type of Photon Swords, people. Anyways, the scene right after, everyone who watched Rogue One would definitely remember. It's the final scene of the movie with Darth Vader pulling out his red lightsaber in a scene engulfed by darkness. So, it's the red sword that's the only thing visible on your screen. While alternative GGO light novels were indeed written before Rogue One came out, the visualization in this scene in the anime was obviously inspired by Rogue One. If you're not convinced, in the light novels, Pitohui's sword was not even red. It was a bluish white Photon Sword, and it was a liberty taken by the anime to paint it as a red one here, a choice making the reference very clear. And before the episode wraps up, we get our final reference as Kirito officially makes another visual cameo as David talks about the one person who went berserk in the 3rd Bullet of Bullets tournament with a Photon Sword. He doesn't mention the name, he says he never heard the name before. But come on, you have to be an idiot to not realize that's Kirito. Everybody in the world knows it's Kirito at that point. And of course we cut back to Pitohui with the menacing shot, and that is the devil's comeback. I'm incredibly excited about the next episode titled Deranged LLENN. It will be interesting to see where the final battle will go from here. Assuming David of MMTM is pretty much dead at this point, only ones alive are SHINC, LLENN, Fuka, Pito, M, and the completely sidelined team TS that was hanging out on the wall. And the location of the main conflict right now is the landmark on the right side of the map, the hotel, which I talked about being an important venue in the earlier videos. But we didn't get to see why it is an important locale just yet, so keep your eyes peeled for that and hit that subscribe and bell icons to get notified when I upload my episode 11 video next week. If you enjoy the content I do here, make sure to leave a like and consider supporting me on patreon.com/Gamerturk to allow me to be more creative with these types of videos. I've been getting a lot of questions already about alicization and if I'm gonna do similar videos for that. Yes, obviously I will, don't worry. Among all the internet that is hating on SAO with non-factual and outright wrong information, you know, I like being able to share my voice and providing you guys proper information as much as I can with the little audience I got here, and that will continue for the entire series no matter what. Once again, huge thanks to my patrons Tiffany and Candela, and another huge thanks to Gishimenas as usual for helping me with all the information in the video. You can find me on Twitter at Gamerturk95 and on Facebook.com/Gamerturk as well. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.